Okay, well, ja, het is ik doce de ne iba Bighorse yenesia etaga hi kuyuga nation nishle ado hashka hadzoho bashish chin ado maitso seneca nation dasha che kia ani dashanala akut au et sana nishle. Hello, everybody. My name is Eva Bighorse. I am the Tribal Healthcare Liaison with the Division of Developmental Disabilities, and I'm also part of the planning committee for this summit going on. So I see a lot of familiar people on the line, and I was asked to just introduce the hoop dance video that was made. So this video is titled Hoop Dance for Healing Our Nation. It was made last year in collaboration with several other hoop dancers throughout the state. There are some kids that you'll see dancing. We have some adult dancers, and then there's even a senior dancer. He's one of the legend dancers that all of us hoop dancers know of very well and just really respect and admire. His name is Jones Benali. So it's you'll see the different types of dancers. I think it's really awesome that every dancer has their own style that develops with time and depending on where they're from, who's taught them. And so I learned the dance from my father, and he taught myself and all of my siblings when we were very little. And throughout the years, I've tried to keep it up. There was a time in my life where I actually didn't dance for about, I want to say about 14 years. I kind of lost connection to the dance between my early teens to my older adult years. But then I picked it up again, and I do actually currently dance when I can. And I also wanted to just give recognition and shout out to, I think it was Dr. Joseph who gave the presentation this morning about she was talking a lot about the relationship between well-being and physical activity, kind of sports, and how that plays into our culture and heritage. So I am Turtle Clan of the Cayuga Nation, and Cayuga Nation is one of the 6 confederated nations from the Northeast Woodlands area. We call ourselves the people of the Longhouse or the Haudenosaunee. And then my father is Navajo of the Navajo Nation, and I am the Yucca Fruit Strung and Align people from his nation. And so I think it's really beautiful that she touched on those points. And so I think hoop dance for me and for all of the dancers that you'll see in this video, it has become a way of life for us. And there's certain things that you have to do to be able to dance well. So you'll see that because it's a creation dance, so you'll see different formations of these hoops on the dancers' bodies, and that just gives respect and honor to different creations from the earth and from the sky. And you'll see too that sometimes we'll jump through the hoops, or we'll have to bring it around our body in a certain way. And so this dance is actually one of the most difficult dances that I do. It does require training. It does require conditioning if you want to do it well. So it's helped me to try to stay on, I guess, a healthy path, and to try to just be in a very healthful state. And so in that way, it's been healing for me personally. But the reason we wanted to put this dance together, it was actually the idea of my good friend Ginger. Her name is Ginger Sykes Torres, and she was the first female hoop dancer to win the title at the International Hoop Dance Competition that takes place at the Heard Museum every year. So she called up some local dancers here in the Phoenix Valley, and we got together. You'll notice that we're dancing at the Phoenix Indian School here in Central Phoenix. And she just was inspired and had the idea that there was a lot of people, a lot of family members from our communities that were going through a really hard time during COVID. And so she just wanted to do something that could bring our nation together. And she had actually submitted it to, she said, we submitted the video as a submission to be a part of the inaugurational ceremonies for President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. I don't think it was selected, but we did submit it. But that was the intent behind it. That's kind of the backstory behind it. And it is kind of a short video, but I think it's a good display of the different styles of dancers that you'll see. So that's kind of a brief introduction of myself, what it has helped me with personally, and I'm grateful to share this video with you now. So go ahead, Jeff. Thanks, Jeff. I was just gonna send you a chat that I couldn't unmute myself again. So that was the video. I love it. I don't know if anyone recognized any of those places or the people. We had Tony Duncan in there. He's a championship. He's a champion hoop dancer himself. And he was actually in a music video called Big Hoops with Nelly Furtado. And so if you want to look that up, that's a really awesome video. Are there any questions? I'm seeing some things in the chat that people recognize. The Steel Indian School Park. Yep, that's where we were dancing at. Are there any other questions about the dance or anything? If not, that's fine. But thank you for being here today. We're glad to see everyone in attendance and glad I could share this short video with you all. And I guess I'll turn it back over to Jeff.
Yep. Thanks, Eva. I really liked that video. I like watching it. It's good. Okay, so next up we have Rebecca. Rebecca, are you there?
I am here. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I hope everyone's enjoying their lunch. I loved the dance, the traditional hoop dance. Amazing. I'm a dancer myself, and I do a lot of traditional dances. Particularly this week, I actually did a Afro-Brazilian dance class, and it was pretty amazing. So I love anything that has to do with dance as an expression of wellness. It's absolutely lovely. So thank you so much for sharing that. I do have a few slides, so let me share my screen. It's not giving me the ability to do that. I don't think. Oh, here we go. Got it.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
I figured it out. Sorry about that.
No, no problem.
Okay, there we go. Oh, I can't see you all when I share it, can I? All right, so my name is Rebecca and I am from Banner University Health Plans, and I work with Kimberly. And I work with the Office of Individual and Family Affairs, what we call OIFA. And we really work with our health plans members and family members to make sure their voice and choice is heard through the services they want and need. Before I worked at Banner, I worked at a health and wellness center here in Tucson, Arizona, which is Tohono O'odham land. And I worked through the University of Arizona at a place called Camp Wellness. And in my career, I've been able to use my own lived experience to support others in their wellness and self-care. I was initially asked to talk about physical activity, and I feel as though wellness is more than that, and self-care is more than that. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about the 8 dimensions of wellness, and how we look at and create wellness in our lives and self-care. So my first question for you all is, when I say self-care, what comes to mind for you? I can't see the chat, so I think, Jeffrey, you're able to do that?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. So if anyone wants to throw in the chat, when I say self-care, what comes to mind and what do you think of?
Sarah Hernandez says taking a hot shower. And I'm going to chime in here and I'm going to say taking a nice nap.
Yeah, those are 2 great things. Self-care, other words for self-care include wellness, healthiness, or well-being. And a lot of times people, when you first say self-care, people think of diet and exercise or nutrition. And physical health is a component and super important, but it's only one of the factors involved with overall well-being and self-care. Because as we know, wellness encompasses the whole human being, mind, body, soul, spirit.
Yeah, so Rebecca, we just had some comments come in.
Oh,
so
sure.
Betty says it's not just the physical, but the emotional and spiritual care that we also must be mindful of.
That's really beautiful. Absolutely.
And then Anya says it means focusing on my mental health and keeping up with my daily needs and tasks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Carmela adds, doing for oneself, I guess, mind, being considerate of mind, spirit, and body. And then Joyce says, caring for the whole realm of self. And Lavana says, swimming, walking. Yeah.
Beautiful. Any other comments?
Betty added that we can be the best at diet and exercise, but still be unhealthy.
Very true. 100% true. Yeah, because we're looking and we're seeking balance in all those areas that everyone mentioned. So self-care means to take care of the whole self, which several of you mentioned, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. It is the foundation on which we build our care and love for the world. There's a saying oftentimes I hear, it's self-care is not selfish. And when we have a strong foundation of self-care and we can identify our own needs and honor those needs, we find ourselves more energized and invigorated and better able to be present for others in our lives, which is super important. Self-care is also a fluid concept, meaning that it looks different from person to person. Some people might see self-care as taking a deep breath, or a hot shower, or a nap, or swimming. You all mentioned some of those things. Spending time in nature, lighting a candle, watching a sunset, or going out for a walk. And I think it's really important to note that it's really important and possible to incorporate culture into self-care. And I think seeing the hoop dancing prior to this conversation really shows that. Other things that show that are seeing a traditional healer for something, the foods we eat, words in our language, songs, dances, and ceremonies. Is anyone familiar with this graph right here, this visual?
Lynn says yes.
Okay, awesome, great. Yeah, this is from SAMHSA, and it's the 8 dimensions of wellness. And as you can see, and this is a great tool. And I also think that we can adjust this tool when we use it with folks we work with and the youth that we work with, and ourselves to fit what we need it to fit. So it's adaptable. But at the top, we have emotional wellness. Financial is next to that, then social, spiritual, occupational, physical, intellectual, and environmental. Some examples of emotional wellness are being able to seek support from others, as well as provide it to others, learning stress management techniques, knowing what our strengths are, being able to ask for help or support. Financial wellness includes saving money or exploring ways to do this, having and learning about ways to budget. Social wellness, contributing to our community, attending social gatherings, being aware of our own boundaries and others' boundaries. Spiritual wellness could be spending time in nature, discovering our values or beliefs, religious or otherwise spiritual activities and practices. That could include meditation and prayer, not limited to that. And then occupational wellness, which could include work or school, and also having a work-school life balance. Learning new skills, exploring things we might want to do for careers in our lives, or volunteering. Physical wellness includes physical activity. That does not mean that you have to go run a marathon tomorrow. It could mean whatever that means for you: swimming, walking, dancing. Our sleep fits into the physical wellness category, how we eat, being body aware, our personal hygiene, and then also scheduling regular physical care from our medical or dental providers. Intellectual wellness includes things like reading books or articles, maybe starting a new hobby, attending a class or a workshop, talking with a mentor or counselor, and then just being curious about life in general. Environmental wellness is a really big, it's a big one. So thinking about how we recycle and reuse things in our lives, conserving water and other resources, possibly biking instead of driving or walking instead of driving, and then spending time outside, possibly noticing the beauty around us or gardening. So those are some examples of those domains of wellness. I also think it's important to note that sometimes something we may do for our self-care would fall into more than one of these domains. So for example, I like to dance, and that provides me physical wellness as well as emotional wellness and social wellness, and a little bit of spiritual as well. So it kind of can fit into more, something that we do might fit into more than one category. I also found this to be important, and I found this in some other domains of wellness that I looked into when I was creating this presentation, and it's multicultural wellness. And so that's an awareness of your own culture, background, and becoming knowledgeable about, respectful of, and sensitive to the cultures of other people. That includes exploring your own roots, learning a new language, maybe going to a diversity lecture or talk, possibly joining a cultural organization, and being an active member or a person that promotes multiculturalism, and taking interest in learning about the culture of your peers and those that you're around. Because a lot of times, I know I like to surround myself with people that may be different than myself. So you can learn a lot that way. So I have a little activity for the chat. And I wanted everyone to answer these two questions if you could, or take some time to think about it and then maybe throw something in the chat. What are things you do for your wellness and self-care? Some of you mentioned some of that earlier. And then where do these fall into the dimensions of wellness that I discussed, including the multicultural dimension? I'm going to give everyone about 5 minutes or so to think about that and throw something in the chat if you'd like.
Yeah, Rebecca, Sarah
yeah.
asked if you could go back to the different domains again.
You know what's great is I was going to do that and I didn't. That's great. You read my mind. There you go. And then again, include the multicultural dimension as well. I think that's important to include.
So Melly says meditation, spiritual wellness.
Definitely.
So Carmela says, I walk or jog, and this helps with physical, emotional, and spiritual wellness.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah says, learning a new language for intellectual and social awareness so that she's able to communicate with family members.
Mm-hmm.
And then Betty says, I read novels and really like books that teach me something. I also love to host tea parties, which help with social connections and connecting with my support system. When it's not too warm, and in parentheses, and it's getting there into the Phoenix area, she enjoys walking, which helps balance her blood sugar, physical, and it helps for having time to think, so emotional.
Mhm.
And then Betty says, planning your day and reflecting at the end of the day.
Mhm. All lovely. Um, these are all great. Is there any area, I'm going to skip ahead a slide. Is there any area, actually, I don't need to, is there, oh, here we go. We got some more.
Yeah, Joyce says, taking walks and exercising, being with my family and enjoying the company, asking my kids about how their day went and enjoying a meal together. And then we've got another one from Lavana who says, intellectual domain, she likes reading about other people's cultures. I've read books about indigenous people and native people in America.
Mhm. I'm going to give it another minute or two and then we can move on. Mhm.
We have got one from Betty who says, the environmental domain, just feeling safe.
Absolutely.
Triva says prayer, exercise, reading, helping others, and staying in touch with family and friends.
Mhm. There's two Bettys. Gotcha. Yeah. Care and gratitude is really important. These are all great. Thank you so much for your thoughtful answers and sharing what you do for your self-care. So important. And so my last slide is about prioritizing your self-care because it's all about balance. And from what you all are sharing, you seem very balanced. I would also add, is there any area, this is something to think about, is there any area where you feel you could grow or work on that might be not as not as focused on by you? You know, for some folks it might be, oh, my physical wellness, I don't get enough movement. That's just an example of that. So thinking about like where there's an area you might want to set some goals is great. And then how I became familiar with the dimensions of wellness was through my work at Camp Wellness. I was working with people like me that were living with mental health diagnoses, and I had conversations a lot every 8 weeks with new groups of students every 8 weeks about this. And I think I revisited it every 8 weeks to see where I was in my own kind of wellness wheel, so to speak. And I found that really helpful for me and insightful, as well as being able to work with folks and then after those 8 weeks, step back and see where they've grown and where they might want to focus next. And I also think about how we can use this sort of tool with our youth in schools to get them thinking about self-care. Does anyone have any ideas about how it might be something like this could be used in that way? Oh, Betty, that has to be hard to love dancing and your husband doesn't. Oh.
So Lavana added that she can relate to the blood sugar issue because an hour after eating, she drops fast in place for 2 minutes, which wakes up her brain.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everyone's going to go for a jog this afternoon. No, not everyone, just kidding. Any ideas about how to use this with younger folks, like having conversations? I think some of you wrote in some of your answers that you spend time with your family and the importance of that. Like how could this be used in those sorts of ways?
Yeah, so Joyce thought that introducing self-care to youth and explaining what it means can help come up with a short-term goal to get them started.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Betty added that we can jog and listen to presentations at the same time.
Like a podcast.
You're right.
That's great. A jogcast. All right. Any other last minute thoughts?
Yeah, Betty says getting rid of clutter and living minimally. Carmela says being a role model. Yeah, Lavana says, yep, on the weekends, I cut back on carbs and fats to lose weight.
Absolutely, Sarah. Physical activity is a way of wellness rather than focusing on changing your body. I think that's so important. I think that's so important.
So Joyce says, I think with this pandemic, youth as well as adults have become comfortable at home, using technology that we all need to re-educate the life of being out and being active, especially with the youth to get them out and not with technology.
Absolutely. Yeah. Technology, as great as it is and can keep us connected, it's not the same as being with people and connected to people, whether that be face-to-face outside somewhere or inside somewhere. Yeah, definitely. Thank you all so much for your thoughtfulness and your answers. And I hope this tool, the dimensions of wellness and this tool can be helpful and something to think about with your families, personally, with the youth and other people that you work with. Because I think from my personal experience with it, personally as well as in my work with others, has been a great tool, and I've learned a lot from it. This is, in case anyone is interested, this is our Banner University Health Plan OIFA team email that you can email. And then my email, I'll throw in the chat as well. And it was also in the front of the slide, but I can throw it in here in case anyone has any questions or wants to follow up at all. So that is my email as well. And then thank you for having me here today. Kimberly asked me to present last week, and it's an honor to be here. And I hope this was helpful. I know that being able to listen to everyone today, share their stories and their experiences and what they envision for youth has been really fantastic for me, a great experience. So thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, and thank you, Rebecca. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I look forward to the rest of the day as well. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their lunch. I think I gave you maybe a half hour back. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Thanks.